in deficit. Thousands of pounds per minute were being paid in debt repayment. Now, as it was a Labour former minister who said, it was Lord Miners who said, there's nothing progressive about paying an awful lot in debt repayment. That doesn't build new schools, it doesn't build hospitals, and it doesn't produce child benefit. So it had to be tackled, and I think, George Osborne made a start today. Now, I'd certainly disagree with some of the detail that was announced today, but the fact is, Labour was going to cut. The only argument is about the scale of cuts. In terms of the banks, going back to Jonathan Davis's point, I do think the banking levy should have been stronger, given the amount of money that was spent bailing out the banks. Well, the banks, it's intellectually lazy to blame it all on the banks, I have to say that, because why did the banks go bankrupt? Because we were demanding more and more money from the banks. There was banks that had, for example, subprime mortgages. We were the people who were actually spending that money from the banks. So the public are not exempt. It's very easily and very, very fashionable to blame everything on the banks, and I do partly, but it was also the public that were responsible. The public were overspending as well.
Look, good point, well made. Lorraine Davidson, this issue of the bank levy, have I got this right that we don't know the details of it yet, and we'll find out shortly?
Yeah, I think that's about the size of it. But what we do know now is that the bank levy is going to become permanent, which wasn't necessarily a given before today. And I think, again, it's the populist touch. The government know that they have to be seen to be hitting the bankers, because people are feeling that this was a crisis caused by the banks, and why are the ordinary people paying for it?
But what do you expect? Do you expect the levy to be ineffectual?
Yeah, I think it probably will, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah,
It's totally ineffectual. It doesn't even get close to sorting out the problem. The bankers are laughing their heads off yet again. They're paying themselves £7 billion of bonuses this year. They're going to be taxed an extra $2.5 billion.
Shane,
it doesn't even start to sort out the problem.
Do you agree with that, Shane? Ahead of the bank levy being introduced, we're already saying it's going to be ineffectual. Might the government surprise us?
Well, I think it is. I mean, ultimately, what is it? It's a tokenistic gesture that's a nod to the vast swathes of the public who just want to blame the bankers and say it's all their fault. And the point that was made a moment ago is a very good one. Where did this all start? We were told time and time and time again it was a subprime mortgage in the United States. Well, what was that? It was people who weren't able to afford mortgages getting subprime mortgages, getting that cheap credit, and then turning around in the long run and saying, oh, it's all the bankers' fault. They're the ones that have been responsible. The bankers have a significant amount of blame in all of this.
Why did the banks give them the money? The banks could have turned around and said, you're not having the money.
Agreed. The problem now is if you simply put a levy on banks, banks will simply pass those costs on to the consumer, so it's not going to solve the problem, okay? You should. I mean, I agree with Jonathan Davis. You should tax bankers' bonuses. I mean, no question about that. You should do that.
I didn't say that.
Yeah. Well,
you certainly should tax them, but that's not how you sort out the problem.
No, I agree. You mean much greater regulation of the banks. I mean, ultimately, you do have to overhaul the banking system, but that's not going to get us out. Even if you do that, it's a long-term project. The fact is, we're paying billions in debt every year.
OK, listen, we've got the combined brains of Davis, Davison, Tong and Greer, and we've got Briar on the phone from London with a query that you've all got to answer between you. Hello, Briar.
Hello.
Hiya,
Right, I'm looking forward to these brains answering this.
It's the brains. Notice I didn't include myself in that, Briar.
Yes, I'm minus some brains. Now, regardless of whether the cuts are too deep or whatever, I don't understand the logic. If you have 500,000 people thrown out of work, I'm, in my taxes, going to have to pay for them to have unemployment benefit and housing benefit and whatever other benefits they're able to claim. That's going to cost me money. How on earth is any of this going to save money? If they're in the economy, earning money and paying their mortgage and paying for food and etc. and holidays, surely that's going to be better than them being unemployed. Jonathan, please explain to me why this is going to save money.
Jonathan, she's put you on the spot. You go first.
That's perfectly fine. It's a long-term project. In the short term, I've already said, it's not going to be 500,000 extra unemployed. It's going to be 1 million extra unemployed when you look through the economics. And you're absolutely correct. They're going to have to spend on supporting these people while they're unemployed. But what ultimately is going to happen is that the private sector is going to realise...
Hang on. We're going to pay...
Can I just answer your question?
Let me... 4 years. We're told we've got to do this in 4 years because that's going to work. That's short term, not long term.
No. If anyone in the coalition is saying that it will all be sorted by 2014, then they're being disingenuous or else they're mistaken. No, what we will find in 2014 is that the private sector will realise that the government is no longer just printing money left, right and centre and throwing money at the problem, and thereby we're paying more and more and more interest. Thus, the private sector will be more inclined to employ and invest.
I've got 3 wise people left to consult, and you've got about 20 seconds each. So who's going next? Shane Greer.
I'll jump in. I mean, first of all, to echo that, it is a longer-term play, but also there is the degree to which the private sector will shore up some of this. Now, there is a question about how skilled are public sector workers to immediately move into the private sector, but there are jobs being created in the private sector, tremendous numbers of them. Will they fill those gaps? Well, it's a longer term play, but ultimately the key thing is to get down the number of people who work in the public sector.
Lorraine, 20 seconds please.
Well, people talk about people working in the public sector as if they're some sort of pariahs who are just sitting there, you know, taking all our money, but actually they're performing vital public services. And that's why I think it's wrong to be taking this number of people out of the public sector at this time when growth is still very slow and we're risking another double-dip recession.
All right, John Tong.
I'm going to have to pay. I'm still going to have to pay.
Okay. Brian, sorry. Go on, Brian. Let's just John Tong have his final say very quickly.
500,000 people are not going to be thrown out of work. There's going to be 490,000 jobs lost to the economy. It doesn't mean to say they're going to be thrown out of work. What happens is that people are not replaced. Now, there is a question, to what extent does that take demand out of the economy, which could affect the private sector adversely? I accept that. But it's not a question of simply, 500,000 redundancies were announced today.
OK. Panel, thank you very much indeed. Lorraine, Jonathan, John and Shane. Jenny Coulshaw, thank you very much indeed. We could go on all night. Oh, we have done. But Up All Night's coming up next. Brian in London, thank you very much. We have been talking all night about the cuts, and now the Chancellor spelled out how he's going to tackle the country's deficit. 5 Live listeners have been telling us what they think. Here's a selection.
I think that it was about time, and I was sick and tired of hearing people whinging that this is going to cause all kinds of different problems. All the government did today was cut spending to 2008 levels. Now, that's hardly a big cut if you think about it.
I didn't think they went far enough. I think the government isn't serious about tackling the deficit. I'd like to see every single civil servant in the top 3 pay grades sacked.
The same old thing again, 79 all over again. Thatcher, we need to take the medicine. Saatchi and Saatchi with a big poster. Labour wasn't working. Queue down the road, and here we are again. Years on, the same thing, being smashed again. The working class man, the blue rinches who were sat on the back benches cheering the loudest at the savage cuts today. I've never seen a poor day in their life. You wouldn't know a poor day if it hit them.
All we do in this country is moan about it, right? Talk about it. But if it was in France, they'd be out doing something about it. We just sit there and moan about it.
We work for a public sector contractor working for a local authority. And welcome to the world of redundancy. I've been made redundant today.
Do you feel confident you'll find another job in the private sector very soon?
Well, I mean, we're being told that we're supposed to work longer until we retire. Well, I become eligible for my post-dated bus pass in about 7 days' time. So you know how sexy I am on the job market now.
Everybody's used up the savings. They've used up every single bit of money they had over the last recession over the last 2 years, where they've lost their overtime, they've lost days at work now, and a lot of them are barely paying a mortgage at this rate. If the mortgage rate goes up, hundreds of thousands of people are going to lose their homes.
You've also been sending us songs that match the review. 6 words to cheer us up on a night like this. Here come the Wurzels.
We've only just begun to live. Everybody hurts. The first cut is the deepest. Baby, I know the first cut is the deepest. But it's too tight to mention. I can't get an unemployment extension. Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 66? Soul slides away. But don't look back in anger. Don't look back in anger. I heard you say.
There we are. The Wurzels end a big day for Britain, a big day for 5 Live, a big day for this programme. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much to Rachel Hodges as well. Don't forget, I was going to say we don't have nightmares. We are all in this together, and of course on this programme we love you all. We'll see you tomorrow night at 10:30. Thanks for staying with us. Rod Sharp is here next. Good night.